Hey everybody, Dimitri here, and in this video I just wanted to give you some initial impressions of these Suspension101 Gobblers that I'm putting onto this KTM 350 right here. So far I'm just installing them. As you know, the Xplor suspension's got some stuff to be desired. I actually really like it, but it's a 2018 bike. The earlier stuff is really not fantastic when you start going a little faster. So I'm trying to play around and address that. And these things are pretty inexpensive and get really good reviews. And all they do is they replace the base valves with something that is, first of all, a lot more involved. So here is the stock base valve, really simple. And here is the Gobbler. There's more going on, and the main thing is this leaf spring looking thing here that is adjustable. There's this green screw here actually puts preload on it, and you can adjust that preload, which will adjust how quickly, which will in turn adjust the preload on this bottom shim stack here. So the install is really easy. All you do is flip your fork over, you unscrew the base valve, and you screw this in. You don't really even need to drain the oil. It's super easy to do. You could probably do it with the forks on the bike if you just tilt it up a little bit, but it's easier just to remove the forks and then just do it this way. So I'm gonna pop these in, and then I'm going for a ride this weekend, so hopefully I'll be able to give them a try and see how they do. Just a couple other quick things I wanted to mention. The first one is that it's awesome that Suspension101 actually sends you this tool to install and remove the Gobblers, which is really handy. And the other thing, I think the old generation had some issues where they stuck out quite a bit. These actually don't stick out too bad. I'm not personally too worried about smashing these up, and they're pretty beefy. And if you just put some fork covers on there, they should be fine. And because they're removed with this pin wrench, even if you do smash them up a little bit, it's not a big deal. You can still use the pin wrench to remove them. And all the adjustment is inside, so you're also not really worried about messing up your adjusters.
Well, my friends, and welcome to my first riding impressions of the Suspension101 Gobblers. Jay and I are just out here for a little trail ride. And we've been riding for probably, maybe 10 miles. And I've adjusted them once. So the first thing that I'll say right off the bat is the adjustments actually make a huge difference. 1/8 of a turn of the big adjuster is very noticeable. Completely different bike. This is a KTM 350 EXC-F 2018, completely stock suspension. I just freshened up the shock. Forks are fresh, have fresh oil in them. So, but everything's stock Xplor stuff. Stock springs. I'm pretty much in range. I'm at the top range of the range for the stock springs. And so I just put the Gobblers in, and I set them to half a turn plus 2/8, so whatever that ends up being, 3/4 turn, which is kind of like their fast single track setting. Because this is pretty fast single track, it's relatively smooth except for the whoops. So that's what I set them to initially. And it's a little bit wet here, and it's muddy in spots today, so what I was feeling, and I felt this right in the parking lot, it's very obvious. Oh yeah, the front end would push a little bit. Like it had too much damping. And it just did not stick to the ground. So we rode a little bit, and the other thing that I felt in that setting is way better hold up through the whoops. I felt like I could go as fast as I possibly can through the whoops, like as fast as I'm brave, which is kind of an awesome thing, especially for a PDS bike. I don't really love PDS bikes, especially in the whoops, because I feel like the back end is too active. But it stayed really planted because the front end just stayed really up in the stroke really nicely. So that was cool, but it would just not turn. I go into every corner and the front end would slide a little bit. I felt like I was doing a four-wheel drift, or two-wheel drift, sorry. Like if you've ever ridden a bike with way too much tire pressure in the trails, or dual sport tires in the trails, you know that feeling where you've got grip, but there's a lot of slip between when there's grip and then or between when you turn and you actually, like, something happens. There's a little bit of slip. So I was feeling a lot of that. So I turned it in an eighth of a turn, and or actually turned it out, sorry. You start from out, fully out, because it preloads the stack, so fully loose. So that puts it into gobbler mode, which is half a turn plus an eighth. And that actually made a huge difference. The front end immediately stuck to the ground way better. I didn't feel any of that, like, slidiness, like I'm doing this right now, and it's sticking. But it is also way, hi Jay, it is also way worse in the whoops. It's kind of back to feeling kind of similar to what a stock Xplor typically feels like. So I'm gonna keep riding it, but it is really interesting how much of a difference it makes. It's probably, that alone is probably worth it, honestly. All right, so now I just added a quarter turn, which is like the super aggressive, I don't remember what but this is like a race-based single track, I guess. And I can immediately feel the decrease in traction. The bike just does not want to turn in, especially on the smooth stuff. But when I want to go over a little whoop, or wait till a whoop section here. Yeah, I feel like I'm blowing every other corner. At the same time, I feel like I'm riding faster because I can ride the faster stuff with more speed, more control. Still a PDS bike, so it's still a little sketchy. I'm gonna ride very fast and very aggressive through something that does not have a ton of turns. This three-quarter, I guess I turned it, yeah, I turned it up, or not three-quarter, this is 5/8 or 7/8. So yeah, if you're gonna ride something really fast and aggressive, this 7/8 mode is where it's at. But it does take a lot more effort to turn, and I feel like I have way less traction in the front. Alright, so I took a couple clips of rebound out of the fork, which I think helped the traction situation a bit. And this is just clicks. This is the adjuster at the top, which you still have with the gobblers. Yeah, this does feel better. Bike is responsive, but it's got hold up. It's got traction. Now, I don't feel like I'm blowing every corner. Especially with it being wet and muddy. I almost feel like I'll take a little rebound out of the back too. This feels nice. really even feel. They're pretty small. It will be really interesting to try this in Kentucky. Doing Renfro in a couple of weeks. So I feel like that will be a really good test. Alright, we've got a slightly faster section here that had a lot of whoops. And I would say this is probably in Michigan where the gobblers make the most difference. So yeah, if you're thinking of trying the gobblers for the Xplor forks, I highly recommend it, even just to be able to play with your own suspension kind of yourself and try different stuff. Try it softer, try different valving essentially, because I think that's a really powerful thing because it does make a big difference. So you might be able to really kind of understand a little more about what your preferences are. Maybe you like the suspension a little softer, maybe a little stiffer in certain situations. And I think that educational experience alone is worth the $500 and half an hour of your time to install these things. One thing I will say for sure is it did not make it worse. I would say, is it a super drastic improvement? Not really. I just rode my buddy Jay's TBI Husky, and the suspension on that is for sure better. But as far as Xplor goes, I don't think it made it worse. I think it made it a little bit better in terms of overall holdup, and I think it made it a lot better in terms of adjustability. So far, after the riding for 25 miles, I don't know what we did so far, I would say thumbs up for me for the gobblers, for Michigan anyways. Cheap, easy, does what it's advertised. Well, it's not too low. Alright guys, I hope you found this first impressions video interesting. If you have any questions or comments, shoot me a comment. Happy to keep sharing my thoughts. Like I said, I'm going to be doing a little bit more riding on this bike in the next couple of weeks. So I will have a lot more thoughts on how I feel about the Suspension 101 Gobblers.